I am depressed this morning. Friday was my birthday. I turned 63. My wife out of town. My first granddaughter living in Nebraska, far away. My grandson, who knows when he's going to be awake. I was sitting upstairs after setting up the FAC and getting everything ready for this seminar that we were going to have this weekend, and the doorbell rang, and Christopher went down to answer the door, and I finally decided I've got to go downstairs and find out what in the world is going on, who'd be delivering something this time of day. And I opened the door and started down the stairs, and my granddaughter came up the stairs to meet me. And it was a great weekend. I can't tell you how much fun I had on my birthday. To start out, and wind up as exciting as it was. And so I've spent the weekend. Now I'm depressed, though, because as I came up here to get everything ready for church this morning, she left. And so I probably won't see her again until Christmas. So I'm beginning to touch a little bit of what you grandparents, you guys that were grandparents before me, know and understand and feel. And so I just have to tell you that's a little bit of the mood I am in. But I'm also thrilled today and excited to have Trey Morgan here to speak to you today. Now I know that doesn't compare with my granddaughter being here, right? But Trey knows his stuff. Trey is an excellent presenter of God's Word, and Trey is a man of God. I can see his influence all over the place, from places that he's been and places where he's served and places where he has even just spoken. And they always speak highly of Trey and are excited for him having been there. If you were not able to be here over the weekend, Friday night and Saturday morning, yesterday morning, to be a part of that marriage seminar, you would do well to find out how to get hold of their video presentations. Both Trey and Lee, his wife, who I tend to want to reverse those and call him Lee and her Trey, because I know a Trey that is a female, but nevertheless, we get them right. But get their videos and watch those. You will be blessed greatly by what they have to tell you. Trey said he's not big on introductions. I've told you just about everything I know about him that probably you need to know for him to speak, but whatever else he wants to say. Trey, we are glad you're here, and we're blessed by you being here. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here, thankful to be here. The University Church has been special in my world for a long time. My wife and I are Amarillo kids, and so we've known about this church for a long time. I've spoke here before. It's been a few years ago. But we always enjoy when we get a chance to come, and always enjoy hanging out with David and spending time with him, whether it's here at the Red River Family Encampment that we love so much. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you, and thank you to the church for hosting and doing so much work for the weekend seminar we did. You had a hand in helping bless a lot of marriages. I believe that, and we just enjoyed tremendously being a part of it. I live in Childress, Texas. My wife, Lee, and I have been married for 29 years. We have been in Childress for 15 years, which is pretty incredible. We like the little community. Somehow they like us, and so we've just stayed. It's a good place to raise kids. When I came this weekend, I was excited about it, and Lee and I came down. We started going through all our college kids that were here, and we came up with 5 or 6 that we named off that were going to school at WT. And so we sat down, and I messaged every one of them this weekend and said, hey, I'll be at the University Church Sunday morning. Come see me. I haven't seen you in a while. And out of all 6 of the kids, 5 of them said, this is homecoming, and we were going to Childress this weekend. And I thought, well, shucks. And of course, they tried to make me feel good to say we were wanting to hear you, and I know better than that. But Alex is here, which made me happy. I looked up and saw one of my kids. And then I also felt sad for him because he's had to hear me for 15 years. He finally gets a break to come to Kenyon, and I show up preaching again. So Alex is going to have to put up with that as well. We're going to talk about family this morning, kind of tying in with our theme for just the weekend. Just thought we'd just stick with it. Honored to get to stay over. I don't get to do that very often. And we're going to talk a little bit about family. My challenge to you this morning is if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm going to give you 10 traits. We're going to go through them pretty quick. I promise you I will not keep you long. 10 traits this morning, and I would love for you to write those down. 10 traits of a healthy family. And this will give you an idea. Where are we in our family? Are we a healthy family? Are there some areas we have to work on? And so if you can find a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, that would be awesome, all right? And we'll look at our text in a second. And I'll see if I can get my controller to work. There we go. It flipped. So here, let me tell you about this guy right here. Let me start real quick with a story because I like telling this story. Now, the guy on the screen is a man named the Raven. I don't know if you've heard about him. Now, just so you know, that's him. He's on this side, and I'm the one on this side, okay? Just in case you got the two of us mixed up. And the Raven lives in Miami, where they just had their hurricane. And I'd seen him on ESPN. There was a special on him, the 30 something special. And the Raven has run 8 miles since 1972, every day, never missed a day on Miami Beach. And people show up with him all over the world to run with him every day. And about 8 years ago, my family was in Miami, and Lee said, "Is there anything you want to do while we're here?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to go run 8 miles with the Raven." And she said, "Who?" And I said, "The Raven," and it was this guy. And so as we got to Miami and planned a day to go out to the beach to spend time with this guy, I went to the lifeguard station at 5 o'clock where he shows up to run his 8 miles, and there were several other people there as well. And I met him. Lee took our picture. We have 8 miles to visit, so I had questions for him. I thought this is going to be a great story. I had questions like, why 8 miles? Have you not ever been sick? How do you not miss a day for all these years? Have you ever had company just show up? There's been hurricanes in the past. What's kept you from, how did you run during hurricanes? And so I had all these questions that I intended to ask him. And as we ran, I asked him all these questions, and it was good. And Robert, which is his real name, friends with him on Facebook, I checked on him last week, sent him a message. He answered me, and I said, "Are you going to be able to keep the streak alive?" And he said, "I'm going to hope so." And he actually did. Said it felt like I don't know how you run in Hurricane Irma, but the streak stayed alive, and he ran. Said I felt like bullets were hitting me in the face. His sand blew, but he ran his 8 miles. But I really thought he would be the story that I wanted to tell you about this morning, and it actually wasn't him. It was another guy that showed up that morning named Dave, kind of like me. He had showed up to run with the Raven. He'd showed up with 2 or 3 guys. And when Dave came up, he was a good-looking guy, mid-50s, and I overheard his buddies talking to him. They actually said, "Hey, Dave, why did you not, when I saw you on TV," and I thought, maybe he's a movie star because he was a good-looking guy. They said, "I saw you on TV. Why did you not pick that one girl?" And I heard him kind of explain something, and I thought, I don't know who this guy is, but when I get tired of running and talking with the Raven, I'll kind of work my way over to Dave and kind of find out what's going on. And so I did, and I kind of worked my way back to Dave, and I introduced myself and told him who I was, and found out that Dave had been on television, that he had been on a show called Millionaire Matchmaker, where they were trying to set him up with a young lady, and found out that he was a millionaire. Now, I was overwhelmed at the time, I'll be honest, because I've never just out and out met somebody with millions of dollars like Dave. I was, from that point on, it was like, forget the Raven, I'm hanging out with Dave, He's a millionaire. And so I had lots of questions for him. He had a house in Miami, he had a house in LA, he had a jet that he flew back and forth. He had started making money at about 19, and had made his first million by about 24, 25 years old, and he was totally, amazingly successful in life, except Dave said, "I've never been married." And I said, "Have you just been unlucky in love?" He said, "Well, I've never slowed down long enough, and now I realize I'm a man in my 50s, and I don't have a wife, and I don't have kids, and those are what I want more than anything else." He said, and it was kind of silly for me to go on the show on TV because they tried to set me up with a 20-year-old young girl who didn't want a family. She wasn't ready to have kids. And so we talked, and I tried to encourage him, and I tried to tell him, hey, it'll happen, be patient. Sometimes God works His own ways in His own times. And we probably spent, it takes, for the Ravens' pace, it usually takes about an hour and a half for him to run a race, run his 8 miles. So we had 30, 45 minutes to talk. As we were finishing up our run, my family had come that day, and they were down on the beach, and all 4 of my boys, I had 4 children, and my wife. And as we ran back toward the lifeguard station, just about to finish up, of course, my boys started doing what any kids do, and they started hollering, "Go, Dad, go, Dad," you know. And Lee took a couple of pictures, and we had not talked a lot about me as we had run. And Dave looked over, and he said, "Who are those people?" And I said, "That's my family." And he said, "All of them?" And I said, yeah, all of them. And I was a little embarrassed because I thought, I guess 4 kids is a whole lot to a guy who's got none. And so I tried to explain myself. I said, I married my high school sweetheart. We started having, very young. We started having kids pretty quick. And we've been married 22 years and still happily, wonderfully married. It's the best thing ever. And it was at that point, as I was just throwing that out there trying to explain why I had so many kids, that Dave kind of slowed his pace, and for the first time we actually made eye contact as we were running. And he looked at me and he said something that I will never ever forget. It's one of those moments in life that you go, wow, that was a game changer. A millionaire that I could not wait until this run got over to go find my wife and say, I have met a millionaire. And I was so excited about this that Dave looked at me and he said, I want you to know you are richer than I will ever be. And he said, I would trade what I have for what you've got. And I remember thinking for a second about what he had just said. I was trying to process, a millionaire had just told me that I was wealthier than he was, and he wished he had what I had. I remember instead of telling my wife I had met a millionaire, I actually walked up to her and I said, you're not going to believe this, but I am wealthier than a millionaire. And she was like, what? I don't understand this. I know how much money you have in the bank, and you are not wealthier than a millionaire. When I explained to her, she said, oh, that makes sense. But I just remember thinking, I was being so fascinated with this guy. It was like he was a millionaire. It was like, how can I become him? He's got everything. He can buy kids if he wants them, And he looks at me and goes, you're richer than I'll ever be. It was right there that it really began to sink in that the most valuable asset that we have on this earth is not houses, it's not careers, it's not retirements, it's not cars. Our most valuable thing that we have on this earth is our relationships. It's our spouse and it's our kids. Or if you're a kid, it's your parents and your siblings. Those are more valuable than anything else. And as I have grown through life, I have become more and more to see that. I was telling class earlier where I taught this morning, I do a lot of funerals. And I like funerals in a sense that, you learn a lot about the person that passed. But I've never yet got up to do a funeral of hundreds I've done and said, this guy had a lot of cars, and he made a lot of money, and he had a lot of retirement. But you know what I have said? And I thought, this is what I want. The only thing that matters when you're the guy down here in the box is this guy loved God, he loved his wife, and he loved his kids. And it doesn't matter what kind of car he drove or what kind of house he lived in. We've got to make sure the home is what the home is supposed to be. In Psalm 127, verses 1, we're going to do verse 3, verses 4, and verse 5. David writes, and he says, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Meaning, build your house on the Lord. Build your home on the Lord. And he says, children are a heritage. And that word heritage means blessing. Children are a blessing from the Lord. A heritage. Offspring, a reward from Him. Like I lost it. Like arrows in the hands of warriors, are children born in one's youth. So David actually is agreeing with everything David said here. Like children like arrows in the hands of warriors are children born in one's youth. And blessed is the man whose quiver, that's the little thing you put your arrows in, is full of kids. So let's talk about what this means, and we'll tie back in at the end of the lesson what this means, because we must build our house on the Lord. We must see that our children are like arrows, and we must aim them in the right direction. So when it comes to healthy families display irrational love. Healthy families display irrational love. Now notice that I didn't say healthy families love one another, because everybody can just love. You can love pizza, you can love hot dogs, you can love movies. This is not just love, this is irrational love, meaning it's a love that doesn't make sense. It's the same kind of love God had for His Son and for you, a love that doesn't make sense. A God who would say, I'm going to send my Son to die for those people. That doesn't make sense. It's irrational. And in your household, you need an irrational love. You know what an irrational love is? An irrational love is one who, a mom or a dad, if they were told one of their children weren't going to live unless somehow or another you donate a part of your body that is going to cause you to die, every mother and father would go, where do I sign up for that? Because I want my child to live. That's irrational love. A love that says we're not going to draw lines in sand, and if you cross that line, you're out of my house, don't come back. That's not irrational. Irrational love says I would do anything for this child, that I want the best for that child. And healthy families display irrational love. Healthy families communicate with both love and with grace. And notice here, we didn't just say healthy families communicate. They do it in a certain way with love and with grace. Meaning, healthy families, when they're mad at each other, they don't yell, scream, throw things, call names, or cuss one another. Healthy families communicate with love and with grace. They build up instead of tear down. Healthy families have no black sheep or no favorites. You want to read about how to do Parenting Fail 101, read the story of Jacob and Esau and parents who chose favorites among kids. Healthy families don't have favorites. Now, what do you say, what exactly does that mean? That means you don't look at one of your children and go, why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your older sister? You love your child for who they are and who God gave to you. We had 2 children that we thought were a little strong-willed when they were born, the first 2. And then we had Connor, a 3rd child, who we found out what strong-willed really was. Had we had Connor first, we might not have had more children at the time, right? How many of y'all, we got some strong parents in here that have kids that are strong-willed? I don't know where yours came in. Ours was number 3. And it's okay. But we realized after a while, God gave us Connor because that's what we needed. We needed Connor. Connor needed us. We never looked at Connor and said, why can't you be more like your less strong-willed older brothers in our family? Connor was one of those that would do, if you try to do it for him, he'll undo it and he'll redo it. We had people at church one time, good people that would tell us, say, we've noticed Connor is strong-willed. We said, oh yes. And they said, have you tried Dr. Dobson's book, The Strong-Willed Child, on him? And we said, we have beat him with it 12 times. Connor is 21 today. He still has a very strong will. We love Connor for who God created him to be. He is not a black sheep. Healthy families love each other for who they are. It's kind of interesting to me sometimes that God puts total opposites or polar opposites in families as siblings. All 4 of my boys are so much alike, yet so different. And we've learned that. And I mean, even as young parents, we learned you don't climb in the car with 4 kids and go, where do you want to go eat? Because they're going to argue about where they want to go eat. The little one's going to go, let's go to McDonald's, and the older one's going to go anywhere but there. That makes me puke, you know. And one of them's going, the teenager among us is going to go, can we go to a buffet? Because it's about quantity, not about quality. Mama's going to go, I want to go somewhere with atmosphere, which to me, atmosphere sounds expensive, you know. And I'm looking for cheap. We're all different, but you love people for their differences. It's okay to be different in families. Healthy families have no black sheep. Healthy families don't abuse or shame. Guilt is not the motivator in healthy families, and I hope you haven't raised your children that way. There is not a fine line, there is a clear line between discipline and abuse in a family. And it's easy to know the difference, so don't fool yourself. Healthy families place a high priority on God. Meaning, healthy families today don't need just a little dose of God, they need a huge dose of God. Healthy families find that it's essential to make God a major part, a major role in who they are. I love the story of Noah, and one of the things I love about Noah is not just his faith, but Noah preaches all these years, 100+ years, while he's building the ark, going, hey man, you got to get on, you got to get on, you got to get on. And I heard a guy one time say, well, Noah, man, he just didn't have a whole lot of luck. I don't know if he's a bad preacher or it just didn't happen, but when the invitation song came and the rain came and God got ready to put everybody in there, nobody came with him. To me, Noah was one of the most successful preachers ever. Because he preached for all these years, and when it came time to save people, his family all got on the ark. And someday, if I get to heaven and the only people I've brought with me is my family, I've been massively successful. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, it says, fathers, train your children. And the word train there is the word gymnon. It's where we get our word gymnasium from. My kids have spent lots of time in gymnasiums. They shoot baskets over and over and over and over and over in a gym getting ready for basketball season. So that when it comes time in a game for them to shoot a free throw, when a game is on the line, they can hit that thing because they've done it over and over and over. And when Paul writes and he says, fathers, train your children, he writes the exact same thing. All the time, train them over and over and over and over so that when the spiritual game is on the line, they will knock down that free throw every time. So that when your kids go off to school like mine did, I don't have to call on a Sunday morning and go, hey, this is y'all's first time without mom and dad telling you get up and get ready for church. Are y'all going to go? And they say, yeah, what else are we supposed to do? Because they've done it over and over and over and over. Train your children. Place a high priority on God. Number 6, teach service to others. Teach service to others. One of the things I love that we have worked hard to do well is to make things about others in our family. We have times where we've had a tornado in Childress and we've spent 3 days cleaning up neighbors' yards and drug boys out of bed. Come on, let's go to work, which has been good. We have a highway that comes through our community, so we have a lot of homeless folks that come through, and we're good about, hey, Dad, did you see that guy over there? He may need some lunch. He may need something. Those folks need some gas. I got a message, actually, it was from Connor a while back. I'm sitting in my recliner on a Sunday afternoon. You're supposed to take Sunday afternoon naps. If you don't believe in those, then your theology is way off, is all I'm saying, all right? Connor sends me a text message that, Dad, homeless guy out at Walmart. And I said, see what you can do to help him. He said, I am helping him. And I said, how? And he said, I'm texting you to come do something. I said, it doesn't work that way, Connor. I said, God put him in your world. You help him. If he needs something you can't help him with, send me a message and I'll come out there. Didn't hear back from him. Connor comes in the door about 20 minutes later and I said, you never did text me back. He said, he just wanted a bottle of water. I said, well done. We love Families need to teach service to others. Last year, my brilliant wife had an idea. We knew a couple in our community that does not have much money at all. They live on such a limited income. They had not had Christmas in who knows how many years as just a couple living together. And she grabbed all our boys together. They were all home last Christmas and said, we're going to do something different this year. We have made a list of things they want for Christmas. We didn't ask them. We just tricked them. We'd ask them, we worked on, what are your hobbies, And now what size pants are those that you wear? And so we found out jean sizes. We had all these things that we knew about them, and we snuck off without them knowing, went to Walmart, and we said, we're going to buy this family some Christmas this year. And my kids ate that up. And we said, hey, now understand, don't go get stuff and put it in our basket. You use your money to buy them something. I had one of my boys went off and came back and said they won't have a Christmas dinner, will they? And I said, I doubt it. He came back with T-bone steaks. And I remember thinking, you've never bought me T-bone steaks before. Came back with T-bone steaks. Another one said, well, they're going to need breakfast on Christmas morning. He came back with eggs and bacons, and they brought groceries, they brought jeans, they brought all these things, books that she liked to read. And then we went home and decided, when's the last time they've unwrapped presents? Let's wrap what we can. And so we wrapped all these presents, and our goal was to sneak them over and sneak them onto the porch without them having any clue what was going on and leave. They didn't cooperate. We could never, every time we came over, they were outside. We finally got caught, but we left stuff that Christmas there. Still, one of the great memories my boys have of Christmas is buying Christmas for somebody else. Teach service to your family. My family is not perfect. We struggle sometimes to have these qualities of healthy families. But teaching service to others is a very important part of it. Pray with and for your family. Every day, tell your kids, I'm praying for you. I prayed for you today. Ask them, what can I pray about? Our kids know we pray for them every day. We remind them, prayed for y'all today. Sometimes we specifically tell them what we prayed about, but we want them to know that they have been prayed for. Healthy families play together. Play together. Now, what that means is I've noticed that in all those funerals I talked about that I'm doing, when you sit down with a family and you go, hey, tell me what you remember about your mom or your dad or your grandparent or whatever it is, 80% of all the stories they come up with was that one vacation that we went on, that time when we went fishing, that time when we went to the Ranger game or the Dallas Cowboy game. So many of their stories that they remember so fondly of the person that has passed, they were playing together. Playing together is a healthy thing for families to do together, to spend time playing. Make sure that you are doing that. Number 9, healthy families model values and integrity. Healthy families model values and integrity. You don't just tell kids, here's what you do, you show them. You look for opportunities when somebody gives you too much change back to go, I'm sorry, you've given me $10 back too much, because you want your children to see through you values and integrity. You can't tell your kids one thing and do another because they see it. You can't tell your children, we don't lie in our house. We're honest. We're truthful people. And then somebody show up at your door on an afternoon that you don't want to talk to, and you tell your kids, tell them I'm not home. You've told them, yes, we do lie in this house. Model values and integrity. Don't be the parent that says one thing and does another. Let them see you living consistently. Let me give you one more little point, and then we'll close. Sometimes when kids make mistakes, one of the things that you can do as a parent that's good for them is allow them to own up to their mistakes. We've become a society that thinks everybody's out to get our kid, that if the school calls, my poor baby didn't do anything wrong. It's the mean teacher, it's the mean principal, it's the bully that's the other kid. I know when I was in high school, if my assistant principal called and said, I'm going to have to bust your son here, my mama would go, bust him and tell him he's going to get another one when he gets home. And that's kind of changed these days. Don't always think everybody's out to get your kid. Sometimes your kid makes mistakes. And when they do, don't pull strings to get them out of trouble. Sometimes the best thing they can do is pay the price. for the mistake they made. You don't have to say, I'm going to call a lawyer and I'm going to talk to your supervisor. One of our sons, we have a curfew in Childress, Texas. I don't know a lot of towns that have curfews. We have one. 11 o'clock on weeknights, 12 o'clock on weekends. When you turn 18, that doesn't apply anymore. But if you're out past curfew and you're 16 or 17, you can get an actual ticket. And people always talked about that, but we never heard of many people getting tickets. And I had a son for a while named Parker that would always push that a little bit. Now, I always knew where Parker was. He'd send us a message, we're over at so-and-so's house. I knew all his friends. We're finishing a movie. I'll be home about 12:10, whatever it is. And we go, okay, Parker, but you know curfew. If you get in trouble, Dad, nobody ever gets in trouble. One Friday night, he sends a message. We're with church kids over at their house. We're finishing a movie. It'll be 12:30. Okay, Parker, but if you're guess who got a ticket on the way home that night? He was mad. And my first thought was, I will send a text message. I've been in Childress 15 years, okay? I'll send a text message to Judge Jay Harden, who's Judge Jay Maiden, who's my buddy. And I don't even need to call him. I just send him a text, go, hey, Parker got a ticket on the way home. He was at church kid's house. And what do you want me to do with this thing? And Jay would have texted me back and said, just throw it away. I'll take care of it. I have no doubt. But his wise mama said, but will he learn anything from that? And I said, that's a good point. So we came up with the idea. We told Parker, we gave you permission to stay out past midnight and agreed to that, but you asked. So what we're going to do is I'll go with you on Monday and I'll pay half of whatever this fine's going to be, but you have to pay the other half because you chose to be out past midnight. We went down and $110 fine for being out past midnight. Now, you figure that up. And to a kid, half of that is a lot of money when you're mowing lawns in 100-degree days. Guess how many days Parker was late for curfew following that example right there? Didn't happen anymore. One of the times where Mama was wise and said, what's he going to learn if we pull some strings and get him out of trouble? Make sure you're modeling values integrity. Lastly, seek help when you come to an impasse. When your marriage or your family has some issues and you don't know how to deal with it, find a book on the subject, read it, educate yourself, find a mentor, find someone who's been through it, a counselor, a minister, an elder, a leader, someone that can help you with this. Now, if you took notes, my goal to you is, my challenge to you is to catch your family today at lunchtime and say, hey, here's the 10 points Trey threw out there for a second. How are we doing on these? Do you think as a family we are communicating with love and grace? Are we doing well on this, on that? Ask your kids. They may go, hey, number 8, play together. When are we ever going to do that? It's good to ask those questions. How are we doing? This is a quiver. We talked about it at the first. David said, blessed is the man whose quiver is full of kids. Blessed are the parents who have lots of kids. You know what you do with arrows? Let me tell you what you don't do with arrows. No warrior, he says, if you're a parent, you're a warrior. No warrior ever protects his arrows and keeps them in a little glass case for everybody to see. No warrior ever said, hey, come into my living room. I want to show you my arrows. You can't touch them. You just look at them. That's not what arrows were for. Arrows were for shooting. And when David says, your kids, you are warriors and your kids are arrows in your hands, you have about 18 years to be pointing those kids in the right direction. And there's going to come a time, you may blink once, you may blink twice, and they're going to be crossing a stage. And they're going to be getting ready to move off to college somewhere. And that arrow that you've been pointing for 18 or so years, you're going to have to let it fly, whether you want to or not. And it's at that point you're going to be going, I hope, I pray, I know, or I wish I would have been pointing this child in the right direction. Healthy families matter. Healthy families matter. Blessed is the family whose quiver is full of kids. We're going to sing an invitation song at this time. If you're here and we can pray for you this morning, if you're ready to become a Christian and confess Jesus as Lord and repent of your sins and give Him your life and have your sins washed away in baptism, great morning to do that. But if you have a need that we can help you with, would you please come and stand as we sing this song?